This is Android Basics, in which we bring you up to date on the things that you should know to use your Android phone.
Let's now move on to our first item in the list, and this time we're talking about the Quick Panel and the Notification Center as we continue our journey through the One UI found in Samsung. And of course, we're working with Samsung 5.1, that's One UI 5.1.x. And of course, if you are in the beta, things would be a little bit different. So this is primarily for those of you that are still using Samsung One UI 5.x. John will now give us a preamble before we dive into it. Here's John.
Hello, welcome back to our series on Samsung's One UI. Today I'm going to be covering the notification shade and the quick settings panel. I'm on my home screen right now, but you can get to the notification shade from anywhere just by swiping from the very top of the screen down with two fingers, or by doing TalkBack's gesture for the notification shade, which is to swipe right then down.
Notification shade, 8:41 a.m.
And once you're in the notification shade, along the top, you'll have 6 quick toggles. By default, they are
Wi-Fi on Nymeria button. Sound on button. Bluetooth on button. Auto. Rotate set to portrait off button. Airplane mode off button. Flashlight off button.
And to toggle these, of course, you just double tap them. So I'll double tap to turn the flashlight on.
On.
Double tap to turn it off.
Flashlight off.
And then if you want to go to the settings for a specific toggle, so let's say
Bluetooth on button.
we want to go to the Bluetooth settings, instead of double tapping to turn Bluetooth on or off, we could double tap and hold.
Scanning in progress. Bluetooth.
And that
Navigate
takes us to
up
the Bluetooth
button.
settings. So that's how you can get to the settings related to any of those quick settings toggles. I'm going to go back to the
Stop
notification
scanning.
shade.
Home. Search. Notification shade.
And below this row of quick toggles, you have
Device control button.
and
Media output button.
these are larger buttons. They each take up half the screen widthwise. This first one
Device control button.
will take you to your smart home devices or a customizable panel of the specific devices you want quick access to. So in my case, it is a few cameras, like my front door camera, and some other outdoor cameras or lights. Anything that you can have in the Google Home app or SmartThings app, you can put here. Now, by default, it's set up with SmartThings, so if you go in here, you can customize it to use Google Home instead of SmartThings, and you can pick which devices you want to show up on this panel.
Media output button.
Next is Media Output. I'll open this real quick because it's pretty
Pop-up
simple.
window. Audible.
You just choose the device you want
This phone.
to cast to.
AirPods Pro via John's S23 Ultra. Bathroom speaker. Bedroom display.
So just a list of devices here.
Home. News.
I'm going to go back to the
Notification shade. 8:48 a.m.
And then after,
Media output button.
below these two buttons I just described, we have
Page Golden Sun 9.
the media playback widget. So if you are playing media or you've recently played media, this is where you will go to get to those controls. So this is the Audible
This phone.
widget.
Expand button. Previous track button.
I have some
Play
controls
button.
here.
Next track button. Selected page 0 of 2.
Now, it will always tell you you're on page 0, so those aren't labeled correctly, but it at least tells me that I have 2 pages, so I know there's another page. If I want to get to that, I just swipe left with 2 fingers. So then below this media playback widget, you have your actual notifications.
Collapsed do not disturb turned on until I turn it off.
You can swipe through them.
Expand button.
To the right of each one, if you're swiping, is a button to expand.
Collapsed Roborock S7 8:28 a.m. finished cleaning. Returning to the dock.
I'm going to bring up the actions for this so you can see.
Actions. Expand.
We can expand
Dismiss.
or dismiss, so I'm going to double tap to dismiss.
Collapsed data. Zone 1. Your front door camera thinks it spotted a familiar face. Notification shade.
And then it put me on my next notification. So this is just going to be a long list of notifications. You can, if you double tap and hold on one,
Nest.
it'll give you
Turn off notifications.
the option to turn off all notifications for that specific app,
Settings.
or to go to the settings for the notification. We will be talking more in depth about notification settings in a later installment of this series, so I won't go there right now. I'll just back out.
Home. News. Notification shade. 8:51 a.m.
So those are a couple of ways to interact with notifications. If you hit expand on it, it'll give you a couple more options. Like if it's a message from somebody and you hit expand, you can reply from the notification or mark it as read, certain things like that. If you get a text message with a security code to log in somewhere, you can hit expand and there's usually a button you can press to copy the code automatically without having to open the app, that type of thing. So that's what the expand button is for. And I showed you can dismiss it through actions, but you can also dismiss it by swiping it away with 2 fingers. So swiping to the left with 2 fingers. I don't do it that way because if you swipe on the wrong notification, you could accidentally dismiss something you haven't read yet. So I usually just stick to actions for dismissing. So that covers the notification shade. Next, I'm going to open the quick settings panel, and you can get here by doing a 2-finger swipe down on the notification shade. So we already have the notification shade open. If we swipe down with 2 fingers,
Quick settings. 8:52 a.m.
that expands it to the quick settings. And there's the time. And if you swipe to the right,
Thu, September 21st.
you get the date.
Device control button.
After that, you have these same 2 buttons
Media
again.
output button.
Then below that,
Wi-Fi on Nymeria button.
you have these quick toggles again. Now, there's 12 here by default on the quick settings panel. So the first 6 are the same as the 6 we went over, but then there's an additional 6. And this takes up roughly the bottom half of the screen, and it's 3 rows of 4 icons. And there's actually multiple pages. So if you swipe to the right with 2 fingers on the bottom half of the screen,
Quick share on button.
that takes you to
Page
the
2
next
of 2.
page. And then below all of these icons is a quick
100%
slider
display brightness slider.
for the brightness. And to the right
Brightness settings panel button.
of that is the brightness settings panel. So you can tap here to get a couple additional options, such as whether or not you want automatic brightness or extra screen brightness if your device supports it. And there are a few options up near the top right along the top of the screen. The first is
Search button.
this will just take you to the Finder, so this is no different than opening the app drawer and searching for an app. Next we have,
Power off button.
this will take you to the power menu where you can restart your phone or turn it off.
Open settings button.
This will take you to the phone settings. So a quick way to get there.
More options button.
Then more options, I'll open this.
Pop-up window. Edit buttons.
Click here to edit which toggles appear in the quick settings panel and notification shade.
Quick panel layout.
Quick panel layout will let you choose whether or not you want those buttons to show for device control and media output, and whether you want them to show on both the notification shade and the quick settings panel, or just in the quick settings panel, or if you just want to hide them altogether. It'll also let you decide whether or not you want the brightness slider to also show up in the regular notification shade without having to expand the quick settings panel.
Status bar.
Status bar will let you decide what kind of notifications you want to show in the very top of the screen and how you want them to be displayed. And it'll also let you choose whether or not to show the battery percentage, which is mostly a visual thing because TalkBack will report the percentage whether the number is being shown or not.
Contact us.
And then contact us. So I'm going to show you how to edit these buttons.
Status bar. Quick panel. Edit buttons.
Go here.
Quick settings editor. Touch and hold to move buttons.
Now on this screen, you'll have buttons on the top half and buttons on the bottom half. The bottom half of the screen are the buttons that are in your quick settings panel. The buttons on the top half are buttons that are not. So I'm just going to put my finger on the top half of the screen here.
On, not in quick settings panel. Microphone access, double tap and hold to long press. Double tap and drag to move, button.
So as you can see, that's something that's not in the quick settings panel. And if I want to add it, as you heard it say, you could double tap and hold and drag it to the bottom of the screen. So I'll do that.
Available buttons. Move to row 1, column 1 of available buttons. Move to row 2, column 1 of available buttons. Add to row 2, column 0 of quick panel. Add to row 2, column 1 of quick panel.
So it took a little bit to get caught up, but I'm going to release my finger.
Button moved. Dragged item dropped.
So that's how one way you can add something to the quick settings panel. You can also, I'm going to select something at the top again.
Off, not in quick settings panel. Take screenshot, double tap and hold to long press. Double tap and drag to move, button.
So I'm going to bring up actions.
Actions. Move button.
And hit move.
Add to row 0, column 0 of quick panel. Take screenshot long press dot drag to move. Add to row 0, column 1 of quick panel. Add to row 0, column 2 of quick panel.
So you can just select where you want it to go and double tap.
Button moved.
So that's how you add buttons. If you want to move buttons, it's a similar thing. You just select the one on the bottom half.
Off in quick settings panel. Take screenshot, double tap and hold to long press. Double tap and drag to move, button.
And you can either double tap and drag it, or you can bring up the actions and choose to move it. And if you move it somewhere else in the quick settings panel, that'll be its new location. Or you can move it to the top half of the screen, which is where all the buttons are that are not in use. And that would be how you remove items that you don't want in the quick settings. So I'll just show you how to remove it real quick.
Actions. Move button. Cancel button.
So as you can see, the only option is
Move
move,
button.
because in order to remove it, you just move it
On, move to row 0,
to
column.
the top.
Move to row 0, column 2 of available buttons, button.
So available buttons means buttons that are not in use. So I'm going to double tap there.
Button moved.
And then when you're done, don't forget near the
Done
bottom right,
button.
you need to hit the done button to save your changes. And that's how you can customize the quick settings. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm going to go ahead and send it back to the podcast crew for further discussion.
Thank you so much for that, John. Now let's talk about some of the things that we find here in that quick panel, John, or you could just give us a little thought about it. What are your thoughts about both the notification center and the quick panel? Is there anything out there that stands out to you, most especially managing those brightness controls and things like that?
Yeah, I think that is what stands out, is that you have a little more flexibility than you would on like a Pixel device. You can choose where you want your brightness slider to appear, where you want your smart home controls and media output to appear and stuff like that. You can even hide them if you want.
Yeah, indeed. And this is something that I keep saying, the Samsung One UI is kind of buying me over. And every day I seem to be falling in love with that One UI. And I hope that Google will adopt some of these functionalities that we see with the Samsung One UI. Now, there's one thing, though, that kind of bothers me, and it's across the board. It's not just on Samsung One UI, but even including the Google UI. And that has to do with the fact that we still cannot hear when we move things around, like say, I want to move this from this row or to this column or whatever. I don't recall that the Samsung one tells you when you're dragging that thing and moving it around, in as much as it doesn't do that on the Pixel. John, does it do it for you? Maybe it's just at my end that I'm not hearing, say, I move it to position 1, I'm dragging it. I want to hear it say, you've moved it to position 1 or position 2, just like when we move things on the home screen. Why can't we do that?
It tells you. It says
it tells you.
row The only thing that's kind of odd is row or column 1 is 0, so it'll say like row or column 0 instead of 1, and then it'll say 1 instead of 2, and so on. But it will tell you, yeah, as you're dragging it, and it's a little bit delayed, so like you'll have to wait for it to catch up because it's going to announce every spot you've passed over, even if you're not currently there. So if you are dragging to move something, just be patient with it because it's going to take a little while to catch up.
So it's all boiled down to my impatience. And I'd always thought I was such a very patient guy. Hmm? Maybe I'm not after all. Because when I drag it and I don't hear, I'm like, well, forget this. It's not working. But I know for certainty that it doesn't do that for us in the Google Pixel launcher.
Yeah, but John, if you long press it and drag it with your finger, is it going to report this? Well, it doesn't do it for me.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. It doesn't do it for me. I do the long pressing and moving it around. I don't do it from the actions. So maybe if it does it from the actions, then that's something different. But I've never tried it using the actions. Instead, I just, long press like Karen says, and then drag it around, and I don't hear a thing. Okay, so let me go ahead and try it. I got my S21 here.
Notification sheet.
Let me turn up
Not
the
disturb turned
volume
on.
a little bit.
Quick settings. 9:30 a.m.
Can you guys
Accessibility
hear?
volume set to 78%.
Can you guys hear that? Is
Yeah,
that coming through?
sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to tap on that more options on the top right.
More options. Pop-up window. Edit buttons. In list.
So here I am on edit buttons.
Quick settings. Available buttons. Out of list.
All right, so I'm going to find something here at random and just long press on it.
Light sound notifications. Button. Not in quick settings panel.
I'm moving and nothing. Let me try something
Live
different.
caption. But drag available buttons. Out of pager.
I'm moving and I'm waiting. I'm moving. Nope.
Dragged item dropped.
It doesn't do it. Yeah, see, I just let go of it and it says dragged item dropped. But it doesn't tell you if you're long pressing it. So basically the same thing that the Google Pixel does. It doesn't tell you. And it's such a shame because if it does it on the home screen, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be able to have that within that area because it's part of the system. And the same thing, though, I've noticed that it happens as well when one is like, say, you're moving your favorites around, especially on my Pixel. I haven't tried that on my Samsung, but something tells me if it doesn't work for this quick panel, moving favorites around by dragging is going to be the same result. So the best thing to do is probably just to use that actions. At least it works. I'll have to try the actions with the Pixel and see if it works or not. Now I'm going to check on my Pixel using the actions and see if it does
Quick
it.
settings. Page 1 of 3. Expanded. Page. Edit order of settings. Quick settings editor. Navigate up. Button. Flashlight. Position 6. In grid. 41 rows. 2 columns.
Okay. So of course I know if I drag it, it's not going to work. Now I'm just going to go to actions.
Talkback menu. Actions. In list. Actions. Move tile. In list. Move to 6. In grid. 41 rows. 2 columns. Move to 3. Move to 1.
Yeah, so if you're using the actions, it does work whether you're on Samsung or on Google. But if you're dragging, then it doesn't. So this is a bug that should be taken care of. Now, it could be that mine is probably just on 5.1, as I'm not sure that I've updated it. It's not my regular phone. So, John, I believe you're on 5.1.1. And that might be the difference here as to why we're hearing mine not doing what it should be doing. But at
Yeah,
least I
think
know that it's not doing it in my Pixel.
Yeah, that probably is it. And it doesn't. I tried it with both Samsung's version and Google's version of TalkBack, and both seem to work for me on my Galaxy Z Flip 5, which is running 5.1.1.
But then the underlining thing is that one has to be patient, give it a little bit of time. Don't expect it to be saying it right away.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I hope Google adopts that because that will make a lot of difference.
Visit accessibleandroid.com or download Accessible Android from Google Play Store for text tutorials, tips and tricks, and more to make most out of your Android device.